It's the million. Mm-hmm. But this is awesome. This is my favorite highlighter.
Yeah.
That's the one you gave me.
Yeah.
Okay. Ouch. Take that off so it doesn't rub on the microphone. All right. So picking up where we left off a few weeks ago. Let's see. So Abraham finally had Isaac after all of that, and went to go sacrifice Isaac. God stops him. Yep. You know, there was that whole God still requires the atonement later on, you know, in the form of Jesus. But he's the one who, you know, is the sacrifice. Yeah. So Abraham's actions and obedience set in motion the ultimate reconciliation between man and God, which is a nice way to start this off. So now we're picking up with Genesis 23. Now Sarah lived 127 years. These were all the years of her life. Sarah died in Kiriath Araba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. When Abraham got up from bedside his dead wife, he spoke to the Hittites. I am an alien residing among you. Give me proper burial property among you so that I can bury my dead. The Hittites replied to Abraham, listen to us, my lord. You are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in our finest burial place. None of us will withhold from you his burial place for burying your dead. And Abraham rose and bowed down to the Hittites, the people of the land. He said to them, if you are willing for me to bury my dead, listen to me and ask Ephron, son of Zohar, on my behalf to give me the cave of Machpelah that belongs to him. It is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me in your presence for the full price as burial property. Ephron was sitting among the Hittites. So in the hearing of all the Hittites who came to the gate of his city, Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham, no, my lord, listen to me. I give you the field and I give you the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the sight of my people. Bury your dead. Abraham bowed down to the people of the land and said to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, listen to me, if you please. Let me pay the price of the field, accept it from me, and let me bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham and said to him, my lord, listen to me. Land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Bury your dead. And Abraham agreed with Ephron, and Abraham weighed out to Ephron the silver that he had agreed to in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 standard shekels of silver. So Ephron's field at Machpelah near Mamre, the field with its cave and all the trees, anywhere within the boundaries of the field, became Abraham's possession in the sight of all the Hittites who came to the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field at Machpelah near Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field with its cave passed from the Hittites to Abraham as burial property. Good. Okay. So that was a long chapter on burying Sarah, but so Sarah is the only woman in the Bible whose age at death is recorded. So she was 127, yeah. And Sarah is used twice later on in the Bible as an example of a holy woman. Interestingly, Mary is not mentioned in the same way. So this bargaining thing that's happening here, it kind of sounds like the Hittite, this guy Ephron, is saying, oh no, it's nothing, just take it, take it, you're good. That's not like the Eastern custom. The Eastern custom, when you're wanting to buy something, you would at first say, I'll just give it to you. And it would be rude for you then to go, sure, I'll take it. You're supposed to go, no, I will pay full price. and then the bargaining kind of happens between there. It's kind of like
Okay.
opposite of how we would normally do it, where we expect them to give us their highest price and we give them the lowest. Right. So, but Abraham, given the bargainer that he is, I mean, he bargained for the Sodomites. You know, like, what if there's 50
Yeah.
that are righteous? He bargained with God. He bargained with other leaders and that sort of thing, with Pharaoh, very successfully. He's not when Ephron gives him the starting price, when he says, "What is it between you and me? It's just a property worth 400 shekels, silver shekels." That's actually a lot of money. And Abraham doesn't bother bargaining with him. He just says, "Yep, here's the price." And the place that he picked for her burial, he ends up buried there. Jacob ends up buried there, and it's this cave overseeing the Oaks of Mamre. The Oaks of Mamre is where Sarah first heard the promise of a son for herself. So that's where, you know, the angel of the Lord, got the three men, basically, God came, and before he was going to go down and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, he met Abraham under the Oaks of Mamre. I think, too, there's one of the covenants that happens where the discussion happens under the Oaks of Mamre. But anyways, in their tradition, Sarah believes that it's on that same hill where like the final resurrection is going to happen. So Abraham is purposefully putting her grave in a place where he thinks she's going to be bodily resurrected at some point, exactly where the resurrection is going to happen. So in these tombs that they had weren't just digging people in the ground. They had big carved out heavy stone doors. Usually take a couple men to roll the stones.
So were there several people in the same cave?
Yeah, they'd have.
So it was a huge cave, and they had little compartments in the cave.
Yes, yeah. Definitely, I know that about the ones later on, like the cave that the burial tomb that Jesus was buried in. Mm-hmm. They have like a main area, and then there's like little fingers off of the cave where, like, so there's a whole ceremony. You go in there after like I think it's like a year. They open it back up and then take your bones and stuff and put it in an ossuary. I think it's an ossuary box, and with your name and stuff on it, and then they put the ossuary box back in the little sections. Yeah.
So that section is yours. It's not like they take your bones out and then they put somebody else in there.
No, they
just stack your boxes over.
No, but like families, generations of families can be in these caves, and that's some of the evidence that we have of Jesus, because we have what's his name? He's one of the head priests that ends up Caiaphas. He's one of the Pharisees that is one of the head guys that condemns Jesus to death or begs the Romans to crucify Jesus. And we have Caiaphas's ossuary box, and on it says something about Jesus being Lord on it. Yeah, one of the head guys so that's one of the pieces of evidence that we have. Wow. Yeah. So this picture here is I think it's actually a mosque now. Mm-hmm. But this picture here is the building that is built on top of the burial site where Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, Rebecca, and Leah are all buried. So their tombs are supposedly under there or within there. Yeah, so interesting.
It is.
Little chapter, mm-hmm. You know. Yeah, and you know, Sarah's the one who, you know, through her efforts, helps bring around the son of the promise, Isaac. There, and it's, you know, we don't really get a whole lot on Isaac. We get like this part where he's sacrificed, and this little bit here in the introduction for Jacob. But we had all these chapters with Abraham.
Yeah.
And we get like this little piece for Isaac, and then we have all these chapters for Jacob and Joseph. But Isaac, and Isaac doesn't, of these guys, Isaac behaves actually pretty well. Isaac acts pretty righteously. And it probably has a lot to do with how he came about. I can't imagine, having parents that were like 100 years old when you're born. You kind of have to accept, like, yeah, that was a miracle. So, all right. So Genesis 24. So now we're looking for a wife for Isaac. So it's been some years. So Abraham was now old, getting on in years, and the Lord blessed him in everything. Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his household, who managed all he owned, place your hand under my thigh, and I will have you swear by the Lord God, Lord God of heaven and God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but will go to my land and my family to take a wife for my son Isaac. The servant said to him, suppose the woman is unwilling to follow me to this land. Should I have your son go back to the land you came from? Abraham answered him, make sure that you don't take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from my native land, who spoke to me and swore to me, I will give this land to your offspring. He said he will send his angel before you, and you can take a wife for my son from there. If the woman is unwilling to follow you, then you are free from this oath to me. But don't let my son go back there. So the servant placed his hand under his master Abraham's thigh and swore an oath to him concerning this matter. The servant took 10 of his master's camels with all kinds of his master's goods in hand. He went to Aram Naharaim, to Nahor's town. At evening, at the time when women went out to draw water, he made the camels kneel beside a well outside the town. Lord, God of my master Abraham, he prayed, make this happen for me today and show kindness to my master Abraham. I am standing here at the spring where the daughters of the men of the town are coming out to draw water. Let the girl to whom I say, please lower your water jug so that I may drink, and who responds, drink, and I'll water your camels also, let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Before he had finished speaking, there was Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, coming with a jug on her shoulder. Now the girl was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had been intimate with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jug, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please, let me have a little water from your jug. She replied, drink, my lord. She quickly lowered her jug to her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I'll also draw water for your camels until they have had enough to drink. She quickly emptied her jug into the trough and hurried to the well again to draw water. She drew water for all his camels, while the man silently watched her to see whether or not the Lord had made his journey a success. As the camels finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing 1/2 shekel, and for her wrist 2 bracelets weighing 10 shekels of gold. Whose daughter are you? He asked. Please tell me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She answered him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. She also said to him, we have plenty of straw and feed and a place to spend the night. Then the man knelt low, worshipped the Lord, and said, blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not withheld his kindness and faithfulness from my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the journey to the house of my master's relatives. The girl ran and told her mother's household about these things. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban, and Laban ran out to the man at the spring. As soon as he had seen the ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrists, and when he heard his sister Rebekah's words, this man said this to me, he went to the man. He was standing there by the camels at the spring. Laban said, come, you who are blessed by the Lord, why are you standing out here? I have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man came to the house, and the camels were unloaded. Straw and feed were given to the camels, and water was brought to him, brought to wash his feet and the feet of the men with him. A meal was set before him, but he said, I will not eat until I have said what I have to say. So Laban said, please speak. I am Abraham's servant, he said. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, and he has become rich. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female slaves, and camels and donkeys. Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master in her old age, and he has given him everything he owns. My master put me under this oath. You will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I live, but you will go to my father's family and to my clan to take a wife for my son. But I said to my master, suppose the woman will not come back with me. He said to me, the Lord before whom I have walked will send his angel with you and make your journey a success, and you will take a wife for my son from my clan and my father's family. Then you will be free from my oath. If you go to my family and they do not give her to you, you will be free from my oath. Today, when I came to the spring, I prayed, Lord God of my master Abraham, if only you will make my journey successful. I'm standing here at a spring. Let the young woman who comes out to draw the water, and I say to her, please let me drink a little water from your jug. And who responds to me, drink, and I'll draw water for your camels also. Let her be the woman the Lord has appointed for my master's son. Before I had finished praying silently, there was Rebekah coming with her jug on her shoulder, and she went down to the spring and drew water. So I said to her, please let me have a drink. She quickly lowered her jug from her shoulder and said, drink, and I'll water your camels also. So I drank, and she also watered the camels. Then I asked her, whose daughter are you? She responded, the daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him. So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrists. Then I knelt low, worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who guided me on the right way to take the granddaughter of my master's brother for his son. Now, if you are going to show kindness and faithfulness to my master, tell me. If not, tell me, and I will go elsewhere. Laban and Bethuel answered, this is from the Lord. We have no choice in the matter. Rebekah is here in front of you. Take her and go, and let her be a wife for your master's son, just as the Lord has spoken. When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed to the ground before the Lord. Then he brought out objects of silver and gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious gifts to her brother and her mother. Then he and the men with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they got up in the morning, he said, send me to my master. But her brother and mother said, let the girl stay with us for about 10 days. Then she can go. But he responded to them, do not delay me, since the Lord has made my journey a success. Send me away so that I may go to my master. So they said, let's call the girl and ask her opinion. They called Rebekah and said to her, will you go with this man? She replied, I will go. So they sent away their sister Rebekah, the one who had nursed and raised her, and Abraham's servant and his men. They blessed Rebekah, saying to her, our sister, may you become thousands upon 10,000s. May your offspring possess the city gates of their enemies. Then Rebekah and her female servant got up, mounted the camels, and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and left. Now Isaac was returning from Beer Lahai Roi, for he was living in the Negev region. In the early evening, Isaac went out to walk in the field, and looking up, he saw camels coming. Rebekah looked up. When she saw Isaac, she got down from her camel and asked the servant, who is that man in the field coming to meet us? The servant answered, it is my master. So she took her veil and covered herself. Then the servant told Isaac everything he had done, and Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah and took Rebekah to be his wife. Isaac loved her, and he was comforted after his mother's death. Long one.
Wow.
But it's easier to read the whole thing and then talk.
A lot of repeating.
It is.
Yeah. And that's just, like I said, because of the oral tradition.
Yeah.
It wasn't written down for a very long time. But it also helps with remembering,
Yeah.
too, while you're reading it. So starting off, Abraham makes the servant take an oath to him under his thigh. It's not his thigh; it's his junk. That's it was a common idiom, but it's basically one, that's where the sign of the covenant is with the circumcision, and also it's a really important promise, like you're holding my future in your hands kind of deal.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, so, and the servant that he's mentioning here is most likely Eliezer, who we heard about earlier on when Abraham was telling the Lord, like, hey, you still haven't given me a kid. All my stuff is going to go to my head servant, Eliezer. So this is the guy that runs Abraham's house. He's obviously been with him. Yeah. It's likely. It doesn't say it for sure, but it's likely. And you can see how, like, without Isaac in the picture, Eliezer stands to inherit everything. So he's going, and he's still very faithfully fulfilling this mission, even at like his own expense. He's not resentful. He's very faithful. He's very faithful to the God of Abraham, and you can see God, helps guide his journey.
Oh, she even put that on here.
Yeah, I know. Every time I go to write something, she's already got it.
So it was a super important mission, and this pact was a super serious pact. Shows a lot of trust. Isaac is the son of the promise, and the wife must not come from the wicked Canaanites. Abraham's family is also part of the pagans, but not nearly as wicked as the Canaanites. Canaan is cursed from Noah, if you recall that. They are later redeemed through Jesus, but in part in the line of Tamar and Rahab. So it's not like the Canaanites are just like cast out there and there's never a redemption for them. There are some Canaanites in the line of Jesus. With later on, you'll see Tamar and Rahab. But you can see, because the servant asked him, like, well, what if I go there and I find a bride, but she won't come back with me?
Yeah.
Should I take Isaac there? And he's like, no. No, we're not going back. Because where Abraham originates from is essentially Babylon. And the little map that I have down there, if you look all the way to the right-hand side of it, down at the bottom of the red line, that's Ur. That's where Abraham came out of. And then it's that whole Babylonian era. Yeah. So where his family now lives, because if you remember from reading, his family had escaped Ur because it was being taken over. That region was very tumultuous.
You have Ur up at the top too, the question mark.
Oh, well, I don't have that. That's just this map. Ignore that.
Oh.
She didn't have any.
No, that
I can mark that one off.
Yeah, that's
that one's just.
We'll just erase that.
yeah. It's the bottom Ur. The bottom Ur is the real Ur.
Okay.
But his family had escaped to Haran during the siege of Ur, because that area around Babylon is super, like, all these tribes are kind of taking over each other. It's very warlike for a very long time. So his family had resettled in Haran, and Haran is where God calls upon Abraham, and he leaves. He follows God's into the wilderness. So
on this map, where is Sodom and Gomorrah?
It's not on this map,
but
it would be just east of like Gilead there. In the middle of that. Well, it's like there's the Dead Sea.
Yes,
you see Zoar.
Yeah.
So it's like it's north of Zoar.
Okay.
Or Zoar, because that's the little town that Lot gets to go. He's like, can I go to a little city?
Yes.
That's the little city that he got to go to.
I love the traditional route. Here's the
Right. So this servant is coming basically up from Beersheba. That's where Abraham is settled right now, all the way up to Haran. And that is not a short journey. Yeah. And he's doing it with this big parade of like camels and all the stuff and other servants.
And her and her servants.
Well, before the journey. Yeah. And he's
good.
yeah. And there's lots of, it's dangerous to travel. Like there's lots of stuff you can run into. Obviously, going through Canaanite territory to get there, and packed with all this stuff. So it's a super long journey for him. And when he finally gets there, he's like, "I'm just going straight to the well."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm not playing around." But he doesn't, like I said, Abraham is very adamant. He doesn't want his son going back to where his family is from because they worship other gods. They worship fertility gods, all these gods that had failed Abraham, that were not the true living God, were the gods of these other areas. And so Abraham is like, nope, be better for him not to have a wife and let God work it out than for him to go back. There's also a thing with Near Eastern tradition where they start things from east to west, kind of like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So in the storytelling, to go east is to like go backwards. They want to keep moving west. It's not 100%, not 100%, but generally we see that motif throughout this storytelling. So the distance that he traveled is about 500 miles on foot with camels and shit.
And he went to, Rebecca came from
Haran.
Haran.
Yeah. And Rebecca is the granddaughter of Abraham's brother. So I think she's Isaac's cousin.
Wait, she came from Haran, not Beersheba?
Right. She comes from Haran.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're starting in like Beersheba.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he has to go 500 miles to go and get her.
Rebecca's his cousin.
Yeah, Rebecca's is like cousin or second cousin. And so also something interesting is Isaac, who's the son of the promise, he throughout his entire life, he never leaves the promised land. He's in the promised land his entire life. So Abraham wants the wife to have a faith like his and Sarah's, to come without seeing Isaac, to leave her home on a promise. Yeah. So, that's also why he doesn't want Isaac to just go there, and because it's not just about getting a bride, it's about getting the right bride, the bride of the promise. So, but he's also confident that an angel from the Lord will help guide Eliezer to find the bride, and that's exactly what happens. So another interesting thing, so you have the father is commissioning the servant to find a bride for the son of promise, which is also a gospel message.
Yeah.
So you have the father, the church is commissioned to add to the bride of Christ, meaning to bring in more, to expand the church, which is the bride of Christ, and who is the son of the promise. So, yeah, wells are also dating hotspots. Like I said, that's where all the chicks go. They usually go in the morning or the evening, because it's a cooler part of the day if you got to haul a bunch of water back with you. The ask to not just give him water, but to do his camels too. To give water to his camels too is a lot of water. Camels, these camels have been traveling. Camels drink a lot, and there's 10 of them. So she was drawing water for a hot minute. Yeah. And it's basically begging the question, like, does she have a servant's heart? Is she humble? These qualities that
Yes and yes.
yeah, these qualities that make for a good person of faith. One thing, so he prays like, hey, okay, God, if she's the right one, let her offer me water and offer to feed my camels. That's how I'll know. Something to take note there. We got to be careful of using circumstances to discern God's will, as we tend to ignore or attribute to the devil that is contrary to our desires. So Eliezer sets the circumstances beforehand that he will look for, which is the key, which is also, he's also relying on God for the promise. So the warning here is, don't just say, please God, set this circumstance up for, or try to look for, you have to be really cautious that we're not leaning on our feelings as like signs from God. because
mine, not his.
Right. Well, the enemy can manipulate that, and the Bible tells us not to trust our feelings, because so this is a different circumstance, and the other thing is, like I said, Eliezer sets out the specific circumstances. Like Eliezer doesn't say, "Give me a sign," because that is, giving me a sign is like,
anything.
It could be anything, and that's where you can allow this manipulation to that might either push you away from where you should be going or pull you towards where you shouldn't. And but Eliezer's like, she needs to be specifically doing this. So
he's relying on God's promise.
Yes, yeah, and he's seen it work in Abraham's life, obviously, with everything that's happened, and Isaac. The Bible generally understates characteristics. So when it says she was very beautiful, she was likely very beautiful. And she walks the walk as far as hard work goes as well. And the servant, when he finds her, immediately thanks God. Like immediately is like, thank you. Yes. Right. None of this is for him. He's just, but he's finding all this joy and like fulfilling the work of his master. So when you think about like our role as like servants for God and finding joy and adding to the bride of Christ, it's like the same thing. So, oops, sorry, didn't mean to push the table there. The gifts were very generous. So he says he gives her like a gold nose ring and all these bracelets and stuff. It was a lot of gold, and she runs to her family, and her family is ecstatic that she's also family. So Laban, we'll see him again in Jacob's story. He takes advantage big time of Jacob for many years, for like 20 years, and that's his uncle, Jacob's uncle. So Laban is greedy, and he's like, oh, come on in, stay a while, come eat with us. And Eliezer's like, yeah, sure, I'll eat with you, but first let me say what I gotta say, because if we're not in agreement, I'm just gonna go. And that's why he tells him the whole thing, the whole story, how the whole thing worked out. So either Rebecca will be Isaac's, or he needs to move on, because Eliezer is on a mission. Laban tries to get what he can from the bride of promise, and later from the son of promise. He doesn't want to go. It's not like he's like, I'll come with you. This sounds like an awesome place. He just wants the stuff. He just wants to profit from the blessings, which I think we find that too. Like there's people who just want to profit from
everybody else's.
Yes. And especially in the church. I just saw this video this week where I showed her this bishop has people lined up, and I don't know what he told them beforehand, but the lady comes up and she gives him a check, and she's like, here's $1,000 plus $235 given as a seed of faith for the blessings that are come from the gifts of everything that everybody's been given. And he's like, he like says in front of everybody, like, see, y'all aren't listening to what I said.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is only $1,200. And he said, I said 1,000 plus 1,000. And yeah.
She's like, well, I'm working on the rest.
Some church.
And what did he say? I'm working on.
Yeah, I'm working on the other 800. He's like, yeah, we'll get on that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Like, that's not what I asked you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I asked you to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was one lady who gave like $4, and I mean, he also tore into her.
Yeah.
So, that's that Laban kind of attitude, like. But Laban doesn't even he doesn't want to even go along. He just wants to profit from all of God's blessings without being part of that community. So, Eliezer's retelling shows he's a faithful, humble servant. So when Eliezer is explaining this from his own perspective too, you notice he doesn't elevate himself at all. He doesn't say, I just made this huge journey,
Yeah.
and I succeeded and I found this wife. So he talks about how great Abraham is, and mainly how great Abraham's God is. Eliezer also doesn't delay. He wants to go first thing in the morning. So they're like, after they agree, he's like, all right, we're ready to go. And they're like, no, just let her stay a few more days. What they're trying to do is get more stuff out of this agreement before sending her along.
Yeah, because then they feel they won't get anything.
Right, it's the end of the gravy train. It's not really about Rebecca, but Rebecca shows Abram's faithfulness and leaves. She's like, nope, I'll go. And she doesn't really know what she's going into, not for sure. And then we see Isaac is at Beer Lahai Roy, which is where when Hagar ran away, and the Lord came to Hagar and told her, like, hey, go back. I'm going to bless your son. That place is named for God hears, or God will know. That's kind of what that name means. And Isaac is there. What he's doing there is likely praying for his bride, praying, like meditating, and
because he knows that he's gone to retrieve him a bride. Yes,
he knows that's what the servant's gone to do, but he doesn't know how long he's going to be gone, if or when he's going to come back. Right. That's where the angel of the Lord first met Hagar. He was likely praying about his wife. Isaac is very, very faithful throughout this, because like I said earlier, last time we met, Isaac had to have willingly put himself on the pyre to be burned.
Yeah.
This is the first time we are seeing Isaac since the rescue from his death. Could be symbolic of the second coming. So the whole, we talked about how that whole funeral, was similar to the crucifixion. And this part where he's going to meet his, he's seeing his bride for the first time, could be symbolic of the second coming. And here's some things some people had listed. So between like Rebecca and the church, they were chosen for marriage before they knew it. They were necessary for the accomplishment of God's eternal purpose. Were destined to share in the glory of the Son, learned of the Son through his representative, must leave all with joy to be with the Son, were loved and cared for by the Son. Both Isaac and Jesus were promised before their coming, finally appeared at their appointed time, were conceived and born miraculously, and were given a special name before birth. And then were also offered up in sacrifice by the Father, were brought back from the dead. That's kind of like Isaac was essentially dead since he was marked for death. They were the head of a great company to bless all people, prepared a place for their bride, and had a ministry of prayer until united with the bride. So it is. anyways,
I like it.
it's a pretty story. It's a nice
Yeah,
little
yeah,
love
I
story
like it.
amongst all the rest of this crap in Genesis. Very, very not crap, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of like hard to swallow stuff from ancient culture and Genesis. But so we'll go on to 25. Abraham had taken another wife whose name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimran, Joksan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Joksan fathered Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's sons were Ashua, Lethram, Lemam. There were some more kids. But Abraham gave Abraham gave everything he owned to Isaac, but Abraham gave gifts to the sons of his concubines, and while he was still alive, he sent them eastward away from his son Isaac to the land of the east. So he is purposefully keeping the son of the promise isolated, yes, from the rest.
The concubines.
Right, so that they don't inherit all these things. So Abraham is very generous. He gives lots of stuff to even Ishmael, all his kids before he dies, but the bulk of everything goes to Isaac. So this is the length of Abraham's life, 175 years. He took his last breath and died at a good old age, old and contented, and he was gathered to his people. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite. This was the field that Abraham bought from the Hittites. Abraham was buried there with his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who lived in Beer Lahai Roi. These are the family records of Abraham's son Ishmael, whom Hagar the Egyptian. There's some more kids. Ishmael lived 137 years. He took his last breath and died, and he was gathered to his people, and they settled from Havilah to Shur, which is the opposite of Egypt as you go toward Ashur. He stayed near all his relatives. These are the family records of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham fathered Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took his wife Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, from Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord was receptive to his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. But the children inside her struggled with each other, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, two peoples who will come from you and be separated. One people will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger." When her time came to give birth, there were indeed twins in her womb. The first came out red-looking, covered with hair, like a fur coat, and they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out, grasping Esau's heel with his hand. So he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. Esau sells his birthrights. When the boys grew up, Esau became an expert hunter and an outdoorsman, but Jacob was a quiet man who stayed at home. Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for wild game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the field exhausted. He said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff because I am exhausted." This is why he was also named Edom. Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." "Look," said Esau, "I am about to die, so what good is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore to Jacob and sold his birthright to him. Then Jacob gave bread and lentil stew to Esau. He ate, drank, got up, and went away. So Esau despised his birthright. So there's no problem with Abraham taking another wife after Sarah dies to have more children. There's no issue with that. But like I said, none of those kids become the kids of the promise. So Ishmael also goes on to have 12 sons in that paragraph. That was also that was a promise from God that he would also be a great nation. But however, he is not the son of the redemption. The Muslims believe that the Bible gets this wrong and the Torah gets this wrong, that it's actually salvation comes from Ishmael and that they are all really the chosen ones. So, or at least the Muslims that are Arabic. Isaac is faced with the same exact problem as Abraham and Sarah. But does he scheme? No, he learns from their mistake and he takes his concern to the Lord. So, Abraham and Sarah, after all these years, so this is not a short amount of time that passes with this barrenness. They have the same exact problem that Abraham and Sarah had. Rebecca and Isaac have barrenness. And Abraham and Sarah, they do this, they try to fulfill the promise themselves and involve Hagar and create that whole mess. Mm-hmm. Isaac and Rebecca obviously learned something from that situation and do not do that. They both go to the Lord about it. Sarah goes to God about it, and so does, and it doesn't happen right away. It's about 20 years because Isaac is about 40 years old when he and Rebecca get married, and they don't have Jacob and Esau until he's 60. So, yeah, and Abraham and Sarah also had to wait about 25 years before they had Isaac. So, so they don't come by the promise easily. They still had to have patience and faith. Rebecca also seeks out God when she's worried. So they're kind of like a faith power couple in a lot of ways. So God reveals that she has twins, 2 nations. One will be greater than the other, and the younger will be greater than the older. Not taking the firstborn, primogeniture is typically the case in the Bible. So there's this Eastern, well, it's not even just an Eastern tradition, but there was this tradition where the firstborn gets everything, essentially, and is responsible then for the parents and that sort of thing. And that is called primogeniture. But the Bible tends to flip that on its head. The firstborn rarely is the one that gets the full blessing in God's line. And it's, if you think about it, if you're born in that situation, the firstborn is probably exalted in a way, even from if you think about Cain, kind of exalt, this is the son of the promise, there's a lot of ego involved where you get a lot more humility with the second or third. So, Jacob is technically the second born, because Esau comes out first. So God's choice of Jacob occurs before they're even born. So it has nothing to do with anything that either of them have done. Nothing, their deeds. God is choosing Jacob based off of, not his works. God's preference is seen as either love or hate, not that God hated or cursed Esau, but in regards to covenant promises, he favored Jacob. So there's a line in the New Testament. It's something like, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And the translation isn't actually hate. It's just seen as Jacob I had preference for. And so he's not cursing Esau or anything like that. Esau literally means hairy, and Edom means red. So Esau's descendants become the Edomites, which we'll learn. They'll face down with Israel later. And Jacob means deceiver or heel catcher, which is the same thing. So does the heel thing sound familiar from Genesis? Yeah. Or the chapter the fall, when the snake will strike the heel of the seed, but he'll crush his head. So the heel grabber in this situation is Satan, and the Satan is also the deceiver, and that is what Jacob's name is. And this guy is the son of the promise, right? So we're going to see Jacob, he does a lot of stuff that is not good, a lot. But he rejects that nature and lives, and for God.
But of course, God knows all of this.
He already knows.
It's going to
Yep.
transpire.
Right.
Before he comes around to doing the right thing.
Yep. And Jacob, like I said, he's very deceitful until he wrestles with God, and then God renames him Israel. And that's where the name Israelites come from. But he wrestles with God because he's about works, kind of. He's about, grabbing and taking and scheming and doing what he can do, even though this promise has already been given to him.
And he knows it.
Yes, but not really, because as the second born, it's not really due to him. Like, he knows that they all know it's supposed to come to him, but Isaac favors Esau because Esau is a hunter, and Isaac likes what Esau brings in to eat. So Jacob, he doesn't have that confidence in God. He wants to solve things himself. He really wants the promise, but he's willing to deceive and do all this stuff to get it. And God's like, it's not necessary. If God has chosen you, it's going to happen.
Right.
And our scheming and all that sort of stuff can't make it happen or make it not happen. God's plan is ultimately what it is. So, and all the scheming and stuff does is the kind of the lesson here is create all these other horrible, horrible problems that are not necessary, to fulfill God's promise. God's promise is a gift. It is not something that can be earned. So mild. So J.A. describes Jacob as a mild man. That doesn't mean he's weak or effeminate. Actually, when he goes to get his wife, he has to roll away this stone over the well, which is a very heavy stone. Usually takes multiple men. He does it by himself. It just means wholesome and peaceful, particularly with a deep inward focus. Job is described with the Hebrew word tam as well. So that word for mild in Hebrew is tam, and Job is described with the same word. So it doesn't mean he's like a wuss. It's just he's more of an intellectual, internal dude than a outside, hairy, hunting dude. Also, Nimrod, he was like a mighty warrior and hunter. Hunter, that kind of thing, is not really looked favorably upon in Genesis. So hunters generally carry prideful characteristics in the Bible. Nimrod was a hunter before the Lord, self-reliance instead of God-reliance. So picking favorites is not a good practice in family. This is kind of part of the lesson of Rebecca and Isaac here. We'll see later on next time what the practice of picking favorites. So Rebecca had her favorite with Jacob, and Isaac has his favorite with Esau, and it creates issues in the whole family. The birthright comes with a double inheritance and a spiritual leadership of the family. So what Esau is just giving up for some stew is a lot, but you can tell he doesn't even care about it. He doesn't want it. He's like, what good is it anyway? Like, life is short, I'm hungry. It's not, give me the stew, right? But this family's birthright also comes with the promised land and the Messiah. Esau seems to be relieved to be rid of the responsibility. He's more into his own interests than he has with a covenant with God. So Jacob is scheming, but he's also very interested in getting that birthright.
He schemed right into it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the last picture that I have there is it's an artwork of Jacob and Esau.
Oh, the stew.
Must be Esau.
Yeah, right.
Are you sure?
So, yeah, interesting stuff. So we'll continue. We'll pick up with more about Jacob and Esau and all of the crazy stuff that happens with Jacob.
So do we hear about Esau a lot, or is this pretty much?
No, Esau comes up a few more times. Yeah, because they are there's like this enmity put between them, even from before they came out of the womb. Mm-hmm. So and then we'll see Jacob. So Esau is willingly given over his birthright, but there's a blessing that comes as well in the Hebrew tradition, and he has not given that over. And Jacob deceives Isaac out of giving the blessing to Esau to giving it to him. So Esau is not too happy about that, and Jacob has to get out of town. So that's coming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like a soap opera.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But another interesting thing I learned this week, I started listening to that Bema podcast. It's these people that study the Bible from like the Eastern perspective instead of the Western perspective, and they talk about it. And it opened my eyes to a few other things that I hadn't caught before. But one of the things that you have to remember when we're reading this, the Western mindset typically is asking the questions where, what, how, with when we read these stories in the Bible. The Eastern mindset is reading it with the perspective of who and why. So in their stories, they'll leave out details that we would probably want in there because we want to know where, what.
We want the scoop.
Yeah, where, what, and how. And theirs is more focused on the who and the why. And the rabbis also believed, like, a lot of the reason why the stories are in that chiastic pattern, where it's like a repeating, like when we saw with Genesis 1, where it's like light and dark on day 1, day 4, you have planet, the sun and the moon made. And then the water's separated, and then you have the birds and fish added, and then you have the land and plants, and then you have animals and people. That mirrored pattern. The reason why the stories are written with that, there is a reason, is because the rabbis believed that if you could discover something for yourself while you were learning the story and the meaning behind it, that it would be more impactful for you. So they kind of hid these like Easter eggs through it so that the stories would have more impact on you. Yeah. He is a sweet Rupert. Oh my goodness. My legs.